It's time to wake up San Gabriel Valley with CCN Sunrise.
Hi, we're back with our second half hour. Author and TV producer Herbie J talks about the 50th anniversary of Bewitched.
And don't forget, Chef Julie Allen will be making a strawberry cream pie. Don't forget. I know we won't forget.
I have not forgotten. But first, it's time for the Morning Buzz. Joining us is local journalist Cameron Turner. Thanks for being here, Cameron.
Good morning.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Cameron, following the funeral for Freddie Gray, who was a Baltimore resident who was injured while in police custody, died soon after, the city of Baltimore, after his funeral, the city of Baltimore erupted, turned into some violent riots. Before we get into our discussion, we wanted to hear what some local folks thought, so this is what they had to say.
When people start rioting like that, it's just, they had enough. You know, it's just been one too many times. It's just like out here with Rodney King. It's just one too many times.
I don't agree with the violence at all. I think violence is absolutely not necessary. But I'm going to quote Martin Luther King, who said that a riot is the voice of those who are unheard.
I don't agree with the violence part of it, but I think that the protesting and the marching is absolutely something that they should do if they feel like there's a wrong or injustice.
Well, that's interesting. Cameron, the first thing I want to know is peaceful protest, the marching, holding hands, ministers out front. Is this the only way to protest? Is it the only legitimate protest? Or is rioting or violent protest a legitimate form of social change?
From my perspective, I don't think that rioting accomplishes anything. And so it is not an effective means, and I don't think it has the moral power behind it either. When Dr. King made that statement that rioting is the language of those who are unheard, the voiceless, he was not justifying that kind of action. He was trying to point out that there's a cause and effect, that there are social things that occur when people's grievances are not responded to, rage builds up and boils over.
Absolutely, but I thought it was interesting that Obama said something about how the peaceful protest, which is what began, was not covered in the media. No one knew about the peaceful protest.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he said, now the media is out covering the violence. Well, doesn't that suggest that the violence is a way to be heard, to get coverage, to have your voice heard?
I think that suggests that our national media needs to do a better job of covering the large story. I think that what happened in Baltimore and what I was most impressed by was that people in that city came together to put an end to the destruction of communities. And when we think about the pastor who lamented the burning down of the senior citizen housing complex that was being built, the young black woman entrepreneur who had put so much of her life into building her beauty salon, only to have it ransacked. So this is not protest. This is something else. And the people of Baltimore decided that they did not want to see that happen. And that's why we had this coming together of factions from across the city, including gang members.
And Rioting Mom. What do you think about Rioting Mom?
Well, I think that Toya Graham gains a lot of admiration from a lot of us because we know that as parents, sometimes we have to get strong and to bring our kids back into line. She said a couple of things that are very significant and poignant. She said that the first reason she said that she went out there and snatched her son off the street.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to pause for a second, just so people know who we're talking about.
Yes.
Riot Mom it was all over the internet and the media.
Yes.
There was a young boy out there, 16 years old, young man, getting ready to loot. He was dressed for looting. His mother saw him on TV, marched out into the streets, grabbed him by his ear, beat him about the head, and cursed him and told him to get home.
Right.
So this is Riot Mom.
Yeah, personally, I don't.
Well, we have a lot of that actually
gave her
at Monrovia High School when they had the rioting or the shootings a few years back.
Right.
Those moms took their kids out of school and moved them where they thought they would be safe.
My two daughters were at Monroe Elementary School in Monrovia when that occurred. They're at Monrovia High School now. The involvement of parents is so crucial. I prefer to call her Toya Graham, which is her name. I don't like that media title, Riot Mom, but
that's her hashtag.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay, maybe it's hers.
Let me ask you this, because 30 minutes away,
there's
a couple who is in trouble with the Division of Child Welfare Services
Right,
for letting their
right.
kids walk to school or
Yeah.
walk to the park, walk
Yeah.
home from the park, and yet this woman beating her son in the street,
Yeah.
and she becomes a national hero.
I
What is that
I
about?
was uncomfortable with seeing her hit her son in the head because that's not a way that and I'm from the corporal punishment era. I grew up with spanking. I got no problem with spanking. That particular, but it raises
I
an
think
interesting.
we could talk about this forever, though, actually. I mean, really. I mean,
We
this is a
probably could.
very
Like
hot topic.
one last thought in 10 seconds, and this is just to wrap things up.
Right.
Is anything going to change in Baltimore after this?
Things will change, and they are changing. They're changing here in Pasadena and across the country because people are engaging in constructive dialogue with one another and with authorities. And we do actually have some authority figures that are sensitive to these issues and want to bring about resolution.
Okay, well, we have to leave
Good
it there,
discussion.
Turner. We
Good
as
discussion.
Mary said, we're ready to talk
Tough stuff.
for the next half hour
I know,
about that.
I know. So, well, we're not going to talk about the embryos that we had
No.
intended to, but I think we'll move on and
We're gonna talk about nose twitching
nose
next.
twitching. And so the beloved Elizabeth Montgomery, we're going to be meeting with Herbie J. and the book that he wrote about her and some of the other infamous women, iconic women in television.
And
next.
we'll find out exactly how that started when Herbie Pilato joins us live in studio. That's next.
Watch for us.
Thank you very much.
Yes.